Hello, guys. Captain Foley here with my trusty First Officer, Commander Calkins,
Hello.
and our guest star, Alec Peters from the independent Star Trek feature Axanar. Welcome, Alec.
Hello, everyone.
All right, today we're going to do something new. This is a quick look or teaser of the ships of Axanar. We wanted to sit down with Alec and have a chat about the ships before getting into filming the many Axanar specials we have planned for you guys coming out throughout the years. So don't worry, the Aries and the D6 are coming in full episodes of Trekyards, but we wanted to get some nuggets of information for you all first before we dive headlong into the world of Axanar. So let's begin.
So, obviously, the basic background. Axanar features around the Battle of Axanar, which takes place in 2245. To give you a sense of timeline, for those who haven't memorised all those fictional future timelines, the first episode of the original series takes place in 2266, with the Annexer 1 being launched in 2251. So the Battle of Axanar, and the date that we can say for the Axanar timeline, takes place 94 years after the launch of Annexer 1, and 24 years before the TOS pilot, and 8 years before the first pilot of the Cage. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the time period, Alec, that maybe the state of the Federation? Have we transitioned from the orange to the blue phases yet? The important stuff.
Wow. I saw that yesterday. Someone's like, well, phasers should be orange at this. And no, they should be. Really? I was like, wow. I happen to like blue phasers myself. That's me. And Tobias obviously likes blue phasers, and that's why we're seeing blue phasers. And I always think that's something that could easily be explained away by who manufactures the phasers. Mm-hmm. If the Andorians do them, mm-hmm. their phaser coils are different than Terran phaser coils, and maybe they're using different minerals to achieve the same result. Maybe that changes the spectrum of the light.
Or they just change the bulb.
Yeah. I mean, fluorescence and incandescence, baby, they look different.
So just as we saw in Prelude to Axanar, the stars of the Axanar feature are the Federation's brand new Aries class, the Klingon D6 battlecruiser, and the soon-to-be-launched D7 and Constitution classes. So you developed the Aries class for this film specifically. What made you want to design your own ship and not use a pre-existing ship like the Saladin class or early Constitution classes?
Well, I think the time frame, we know the Enterprise launches in 2245. I mean, that's pretty well established. If that's the date of the launch of the Enterprise, I then kind of looked at the way FASA did things. And FASA, first of all, they had a lot of ships. Mm. They didn't use the Franz Joseph ships from the technical manual, the Saladin, what was the other? Was it a Hermes class?
Mm-hmm. Yep, Hermes.
Hermes was the scout. Saladin was a destroyer. Mm-hmm. Yep. You had a tug. You had a dreadnought. They didn't use those. They made up their own ships. And the timeline for FASA was always, they took a stab at it, and their timeline's different. But in their timeline, the Constitution had been launched. Well, if the Constitution's been launched, all those other classes that look like a Constitution using those parts would have been launched. And they didn't use those. So I wanted to posit that the Enterprise is not yet online. It's not part of the war. Because I think the war looks very different if the Constitutions and the D7s are there the whole time. Mm. So that's why we have this whole arms race leading up to, at the end of Prelude to Axanar, the D7s enter the war. And the Constitutions, well, the Federation's still struggling to get those launched. That gives you dramatic tension, which is what you need. And once we set the timeline, the war is 2241 through 2245. Once we have those dates set, and we know that, 2245 is 8 years before the Cage. It's 21 years before the first season of Star Trek, the original series. It's 84 years after the last episode of Enterprise, which took place in the year of the founding of the Federation, 2161. That being said, we now had to say, well, what do the ships look like at that point? And the easiest thing to do, I shouldn't say the easiest, the most logical thing to do was we looked towards where the JJ ships were, because they're different and they're messed up, but there's some elegance to the background ships in the JJ universe. They plotted them out. Here's two nacelles. Here's two nacelles with a primary hull. Here's two nacelles with secondary hulls. Two secondary hulls. And we said, well, let's take that as a basis. And then we changed them. Then we put on TOS-style nacelles and roll bars, and then we added a destroyer. And we said, let's use that as a basis, because it's very probable that at the point that the universe is diverge, where here's Prime Universe, and divergent off of that is the JJ verse, that there's still parallel development, that more or less things are going to be the same. And that's where we go. And so Tobias Richter did an amazing job with building us all the other Star Trek ships. And then the Aries is really, it's basically, if you're going to say that all our ships are, Federation 2.0, the Aries is 2.5, and the Constitution and all her progeny are 3.0.
I like that.
The Aries was a stopgap. It was a stopgap, and it was also very purpose-built for one duty, and that was it, and that's to fight a war.
Cool.
And I just want to take this time to point out that we are going to be looking at all those other ships that are in Prelude to Axanar in the upcoming Trekyards specials.
So, next point. Obviously, we'll be looking at the D6 as well. The battle cruiser that almost brought the Federation to its knees, and obviously the famous precursor to the D7. This is based, or at least your D6 is based on the John Eves design for the D4 for Enterprise, I believe, if I'm correct. Do you want to tell us about the D6 and its place in the universe?
Well, the D6 was something Tobias Richter really came, he took all the influences and he put them together into this model we call the D6. We actually have the digital files from Enterprise for the D4, the D5, the Raptor, and the Early Bird of Prey. So we started with 4 Klingon ships, and we knew we needed a D7, not a Katinga, but a D7. And we said, well, what's the D6? We had a D5. What's a D6? And I said, the D6 needs to be, that's the ship that is the ship of the line. And, Tobias took all the influences, including John Eves' work on the JJ, a Klingon battle cruiser in 2009, Star Trek 2009. If you look at that, you go, oh, that looks like a little bit like, there's D6 in there. So he took all his influences and mashed them together and put together the D6, which came out beautifully.
So we saw 4 other Starfleet ships in Prelude, all very different and all based on J.J. Abrams' universe ships from the 2009 and 2013 movies. Now, when you started Axanar, you knew you were delving into a previously unseen era with only a hint of technology from the Cage, and that is a very difficult place to go from. So how did you approach, from step 1, creating a full-fledged world in terms of a Federation fleet? And you kind of already gone into this a bit, but
maybe what was your very first thought, your very first step?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I think the first step was, now remember that this was 4.5 years ago we started Axanar. And my first step was, what's Garth's ship look like? That was the first step.
Yeah. And
this gets into all the stuff, going back to the first drawings I did in high school or junior high school of what I like starships. And what I liked in a starship. But it was also thinking about all the things we just talked about. What's the timeline? What does that mean? What is this ship? And it's not a Constitution. And I, as I've said many times, I happen to like I love the Akira. I love the Centaur. I played Centaur in Star Trek Online. That was my favorite ship, was the Centaur.
Early one.
And so, as I'm going, okay, I want a Centaur with a secondary hull. That was kind of my take on it. TOS style nacelles, but retrofitted, and some more armor plating because it's war. And that was it. That was kind of like, and I have you can see it on the Axanar Facebook page or on our website, a bunch of design influences. And then I got in touch with Sean Tornjo, who designed the Titan, and I said, Sean, this is what it needs to be. I said, you draw it. I'm telling you what it is, you draw it. And he sent me some quick sketches, and I was like, nope, it needs to look like this. And he did them again, and he sent back. I go, okay, you're getting closer. And, it was iterative process. He sends me something, I change it, he does it again, and I literally would print out what he did, and I would write notes on it, scan it, send it back to him.
So it took quite a long time to get to that Federation 2.5 like you're speaking about.
Yeah, and he and I worked together for a couple months, and he came up with a design, Little more tight. I mean, I kept trying to get rid of the Titan influences, you know, and then it went to Tobias, who then changed it a bit as well. Um, and so I always say that, it's kind of a 3-person design team created the Aries. It's really me, Sean, and Tobias. We're the ones who, when you see the Aries, it's the 3 of us who really designed that ship.
Yeah.
And it was a fun process, though. And the finished product, I'm like, wow, that's kind of what I wanted. It looks badass.
Well, going off that, if I may, are we going to be seeing any more different classes apart from the 5 we've already seen in Axanar? Maybe something that's a 50, 60-year evolution of the NX-01 in the background somewhere? As we know, Federation tends to keep ships that are quite old, DS9, Miranda, and Excelsior. Any chance of seeing any other designs? Anything on the back burner?
Yeah, the only other ship we've done was we did the Xenophon, which was Garth's first ship in the war, which is in FASA. I mean, I love FASA, and we've got in touch with the guy who wrote all the FASA. He wrote the 2 FASA books, the 4 Years War and Return to Axanar. And I got in touch with him. He's going to be on our podcast soon, and we talked about this a little. And our goal was, I said, look, I love FASA and I love the 4 Years War. I mean, that's why we call it the 4 Years War. That's FASA, right? And we take little things. Arcanus was mentioned in FASA. In FASA, it was it was a lot smaller battle than what we have, but so we literally built the Xenophon. The Xenophon, the only picture you see of it, a Markland class destroyer is what it is you see that little view on the cover of the 4 Years War supplement. You see a top-down view. That's all. There's no side view. You have no other clue what this ship looks like. People have taken shots at it. I don't think it was in the Federation book, but so we built it. We built it, a 3D model of it. I went on, I think it was Sci-Fi Meshes, and I said, hey, who wants to design this for us? And some guy said, I'll do it. And he worked with Tobias, and they came up with this beautiful model of the Markland. And it is not, it didn't make it into Prelude. It wasn't finished in time. But we'll find a way to sneak it into Axanar.
That's cool.
Because now we have it, and it's, I think it's an important ship. Then people have said, well, what about other classes of ship from FASA? Are you going to include a Lochnar? Are you going to include whatever? And I really can't say at this point. That is, again, a big chore because we literally have to model it, and it needs to be up to Tobias' standards. And I kind of also feel like the ships that we see now were the ships of those are the ships of the line. And the older ships probably didn't match up in the war. They either got destroyed or they're on picket duty or guarding the frontier or
escort duty.
Yeah. They're like, it's like, look, you put the best things you got out there on the front lines. So I'm not too sure. I mean, I kind of like a couple other ships from FASA. I hate all the Klingon ships they did. I think they were all disastrous.
Sorry, Stuart.
There were a few nice ones, I thought. But
all right, well, I'll have to go back and check, but I don't remember.
Well, I've got to stop you there, though, Alec, because I think that's... You're going to keep talking, and I think that's a good enough tease for this teaser episode. So obviously, we're going to be talking more Axanar specials, but we've got to let you know these are pre-production Axanar specials because Axanar is not finished, it's not done, the information is not... Well, it's still being written, and we are going to take the information and see what we can make.
Yeah, listen, it's going to be fun to, as we progress, do other things and show you tidbits and little...
Yeah, and we have watched Prelude to Axanar and dissected these ships as much as we can from the film, from pictures and things we know based on the NX-01 and the 1701 era, as well as discussions with you, Alec. So we bring you theories, and we have the man himself here on our show, so we can share a passion for these ships and discuss what the Aries and the other Axanar ships could be. And after Axanar is out, we will be doing other specials on them with the full-blown stats and everything that they're capable of. But like Samuel just said, these are pre-production ones for the next year. So
So we hope you enjoyed this quick teaser of Axanar specials, and check out the Facebook and website at trekyards.com to find out when the first Axanar special will be released, but it's quite soon, and obviously new episodes every Saturday.
And we want to thank you for joining us today, Alec. It's always fun to talk starships, and the fact that we're talking about ships that are being designed as we speak is very exciting for us at Trekyards, and we can't wait to talk to you again.
Pleasure.
All right, guys. So thanks for watching this episode of Trekyards. If you want to watch other Trekyards episodes, please visit our trekyards.com, as we have a lot of all of the old ones that we released there. And don't forget to click on the like and subscribe button, as well as follow us on Facebook and Twitter. This is Captain Foley and the rest of the Trekyards team signing off for now. Live long and prosper.
Bye, guys.